Drum myths. Throughout my career, I've heard some pretty wild claims when it comes to the gear that us drummers use on a daily basis. So I'm heading to Sweetwater for Gear Fest to talk with Tama, DW, Pearl, Paiste, and Zildjian to pick their brain about these drum myths. I'm your host, rdavidr. Let's bust some myths. Drum wraps. I honestly love them. Don't get me wrong, I love a nice natural finish too, like on this kit that costs $10,000 by the way, but wraps have a certain charm that you just can't get with a natural finish. But do they come with a tone tax? Myth number 1, drum wraps choke the tone of a shell.
They probably do a little bit, but I'm not sure I can hear it.
Right.
Yeah.
No, they're so thin that, I mean, maybe if you had the world's best microphone in the world and it was like really, really listening and comparing, but to the human ear, you're not gonna hear a difference.
Myth busted. Wingnuts, or lack of wingnuts. I joined the No Wingnut gang about 10 years ago and haven't looked back, but a lot of people in that clique will claim that this setup will make your cymbals resonate more than this setup. So myth number 2, wingnuts choke your cymbals.
They can, absolutely, but I think what's more important is the pads that you have at the top and the bottoms of your cymbals, and I think it's important to have a sleeve on the metal.
Definitely.
Something that's going to go in the actual hole to mount the cymbal, because if not, you're going to obviously get keyholing and cracking and damage the cymbal.
I don't think it's the wingnut that's the problem. I think if your felts are too tight, if you've got really big, thick felts and they're kind of smashed down on the cymbal, I think that will have an effect, yeah.
Right. So too much tension where it can't breathe.
Correct, yeah. If the cymbal can't move, if it can't vibrate properly, then that will affect the sound.
I think if you really crank down your felts and crank down your wingnuts, you can choke the cymbal, and sometimes that's the desired effect.
Okay.
If you're going to stack a splash cymbal on top of a crash,
True, yeah.
You want it to be choked sometimes because you don't want it to hit the crash.
Myth plausible. Myth number 3. This is a fun one. Shell material. This is where the tone of a drum comes from.
I would say true, because you can't have a good sounding drum made out of cardboard.
True. And yeah, you can't try to get a wooden drum set to sound like a Vistalite.
Oh yeah, exactly.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
I think shell material is the foundation. It's going to set the overall tonal characteristics, especially the interply, the shell thickness, the bearing edges on it. But the hardware also and head choice and tuning play a very important part. So it's the synergy of all those things together and having the right combination. It's like a high-performance motor in a race car. You're not going to have all these crazy pistons and stuff and not have an intake that'll support it. Everything needs to work together in harmony.
Myth confirmed. Shell material matters, but also everything else matters too. Myth number 4. Odd-sized chinas are trashier than even-sized chinas. This is something I heard Ndugu Chancellor say at a clinic back when I was in high school, and it kind of stuck with me ever since, so I wanted to see if there's any truth behind it.
Whether I agree or not, if Ndugu said it, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
Because I think all chinas sound good, and we have mostly even-sized chinas, and I think they all sound spectacular. But if Ndugu said it, I'm going to say it's true.
I don't agree or disagree. I'm going to be France on this and just say that if he said it, it might be true. I have a lot of experience with China cymbals. I love them. I've had odd sizes. I've had even sizes. It just, I don't know. That's a weird question, man.
Rest in peace, Ndugu. Ever since I heard that, I made it a point to only play odd-sized chinas. Myth number 5. You need a vintage kit if you want vintage sounds, or you need a modern kit if you want modern sounds.
I would say false. Maybe the cool part for like vintage kits and gear is that there's a little bit more mystique to it, like who owned this in the past and that kind of thing. But you can get either sound you're looking for with vintage or modern.
I think it depends, like how good are you at drum head selection and tuning. So can you make any drum sound pretty much any way you want it? I think you can get pretty close.
No, I think a lot of it, in my personal opinion, is tuning and head choice and muffling techniques.
On the other side, though, if you do have really rounded bearing edges on a vintage kit and you're looking for a real clean, pure tone that cuts, it's hard to get that if you have really rounded edges. So I'd say it's probably, if you're looking for a modern sound, you kind of need a modern kit, but I think you can get it pretty close to a vintage sound with a modern kit.
Right. Myth busted. Okay, you'll like this one. True or false? B8 alloy cymbals sound worse than B20 alloys.
Yeah, 100% false. That's a complete fallacy. It depends on how the cymbal's made, how you use that material. We've been using that bronze, B8 bronze, we call it our 2002 bronze, longer than anyone. When it's made by hand, when it's hammered by hand, and its attention is paid to it, it's great. I mean, good enough for Led Zeppelin and Van Halen and AC/DC and Josh Freese and so many other bands all over the years. Yeah, that bronze is great. It has a property of sound when made well that nothing else does. It's bright and cutting and can get through those amplifiers like nothing else. So yeah, false.
False. All right.
False.
You hear that?
False.
False. False. You know, it depends on how you manufacture the cymbal, what process it goes through. I mean, alloys, obviously our special formula and our higher end cymbals are all made of B20, whether it's an A or a K or a K-Con or a Carope. And in our catalog, our more student level cymbals are made from a B8. But then you have to think about things like B12 and then other B whatevers that exist or do not exist or may exist. If you look at our S Dark line, it's a B12 alloy, but it's, a lot of those sound as good as a B20 alloy.
Right.
Again, it's just the manufacturing, how you make the cymbal, what the weight is, things like that.
Cool. Myth busted. This drum set costs a lot. This drum set doesn't. So what are you actually paying for? This drum set costs $4,000 and this one costs $1,000. So does that mean the $4,000 drum set sounds 4 times better than the $1,000 drum set? Myth number 6. More expensive gear means it sounds more better.
False. The price goes into effect of like where it comes from, what material's being used, more options. Like with our collector series, there's way more options to choose from, so that's kind of where the price comes from.
Right, just the little stuff that adds up.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah, exactly.
It does sound incrementally better, but sometimes the devil's in the details, and it's convenience of the mounting system. It's how that's put together. Do things stay put? Are they easy to get on and off? You're paying for those innovative sort of hardware features. The drums fundamentally, the tonally, well, I think you can make a not an expensive kit sound really nice.
There is difference for sure. Like if you in the Paiste line, we have the 2002, which is the classic sound. It's very bright, it's very shimmering. And then we have kind of a little brother cymbal called a Paiste 7. It's made of the same material, same kind of style and concept. It sounds different. It's a little bit less refined, a little bit less complex, but a good drummer can make any cymbal sound great. The difference is less about how it sounds rather than what it's made of, or what it takes to make the cymbal, how it's made. Yeah, the stuff that's hand-hammered is more than the stuff that's less hand-hammered.
Myth plausible. Final question, what is the most underrated piece of gear that Tama makes, you think?
That's a great question. It's your best question of the day, dude. That's a good question.
It can be a kit, it could be a snare, it could be an accessory, anything.
Can I say a PDP item?
Most underrated cymbal. Oh, you threw it for me. I thought we were going accessories.
Oh, jeez. Help me, Nick. Me.
Okay, I'm going to say our drum thrones.
Okay.
Okay? I think every drummer's gone through that phase of like, oh, I got my new kit, I got my snare, I got my new cymbals. And then they're just kind of sitting, and then somebody's got a nice throne. They're like, whoa, that's a nice throne, man.
So there's it's called the dry snare. It's I don't remember the depth, but it's a 12-inch snare, and it sounds awesome, and I don't think many people know about it, but it's called the PDP dry snare.
I think that the most underrated accessory, from my perspective, is a good drumstick, because the drumstick will have a very big impact on the sound of a cymbal, and it also makes a great microphone holder.
Our Sensitone aluminum snare drums are unbelievable, and they're kind of a sleeper. They're out there, 10 lugs, and very dry, full body tone at a great price, actually. They've been around for a while.
So you must be familiar with these.
That's the ride that I
Beautiful,
play.
shiny, dirty cymbal. Yeah, this is your ride.
Yeah.
So this is my personal ride. It's a 21-inch K-Custom Special dry ride. It's super cool. It's super shiny on the back.
Right.
Super dirty on the front. Best of both worlds.
Yep.
As far as the most underrated cymbal, I don't know that it's underrated, but it's a cymbal that I love and a lot of people seem to love a ton right now, is the 22-inch Masters Swish.
Yeah. Rob hit that yesterday. I was like, that is insane.
Historically, it's a jazz kind of a cymbal, but it can fit in any situation in a beautiful way. I've heard it in rock and country and all kinds of different situations. So I'll go with that one.
I enjoyed the Vibra-Slap as well.
Yeah.
Just as a little like funny statement there. The
That's
Vibra-Slap.
probably like the best instrument ever invented. Everybody should own one.
You heard it here. Skylar from the DW booth says everyone should own a Vibra-Slap. What's the price point on that Vibra-Slap?
$2,000. Yeah.
$2,000 for the Vibra-Slap. Everybody get your checkbooks out. $49.99. Best $50 you've ever spent. Can you hold this for a second? And that's a wrap. Am I?
No, you gotta hold on the inside. Yeah.
Guys, I have been performing the Vibra-Slap incorrectly my entire life, and in this moment, I'm getting a lesson on the Vibra-Slap at the DW booth. It works way better when you do it correctly.